1, 2. Mic check. 1, 2. Mic check. 1, 2. 1, 2. Mic check. Mic check. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3. Check, check. 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 1, 2. Check, check. 1, 2. Check. 1, 2. 1, 2. Check, check.
hooked up okay? Yes. Or is there feedback? You're okay? A little bit of feedback. Do you? Maybe I'll adjust that.
All right, can everyone hear me? All right. It's kind of soft, so I'm just going to hold it. Oh, there we go. All right, so we're going to get started. Good afternoon, everyone, to those of you who joined us in person, those of us who are joining us through the World Wide Web. Thanks to Spinnaker Media for that. So welcome to the third Presidential Search Student Forum of the week. Today we will have the opportunity to talk to Dr. Rhonda Phillips, who is the current Dean of the Honors College at Purdue University. Just to give you an introduction, I am the Student Body President for UNF, Thomas Beecham, and I will be moderating today's forum as well as the last forum that we'll have tomorrow. So the way we're going to start this forum, the way we started all forums, we will begin with the first 10 minutes. Dr. Phillips will have the chance to introduce herself, talk about her experience, her ideas, her vision, whatever it is she thinks that is important for you to know about her as a candidate. And then we'll open up for a Q&A session. So students will line up to my left, your right, at the microphone. You'll introduce yourself to her, and you will ask her whatever questions you think the students want answers to. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. Dr. Phillips, you have 10 minutes.
Okay, great. Well, welcome. I'm glad to be back in Florida. It's a nice sunny warm day. It's always good to come and visit. Just by a little bit of way of introduction, I was at Florida previously to being at other institutions and enjoyed my time in your state. It's, as you know, a rapidly growing but also dynamic place to be. I'm very interested in this position for a lot of reasons, but not the least of which is your institution's commitment to excellence in teaching, and also the nice scale that you have where, from what I've been hearing and what I can tell from online, internet, and everything I can read, is that there's a deep commitment to having students have the best experiences they can with whether that's teaching, being community engaged, also learning opportunities. And to me, that makes for a place that is good to have that commitment expressed, and it's been relayed to me by many people I've met with over the last day and a half. So it seems clear to me that you're doing something right here at UNF in terms of teaching and the way that is delivered to students and their experiences here. Anytime there's change in administration, particularly at the higher levels, there's opportunity to move forward, to do things that might be ideas or to expand existing things that you're already doing. And that's an exciting time for this university to be at that juncture where you've grown a lot. And I keep telling people this, and it's because it's so remarkable. I was on campus about 15 years ago or so, before your current president took the position. And now being back this much later, I can scarcely recognize campus. And in fact, there's so much new infrastructure and buildings that have been put in place. Excuse me. I've been talking all day, so hope my voice holds out. And so it looks different, it feels different, it feels much more like a university campus and environment. It's very different than it was 15 years ago. And so this university has made incredible strides in a relatively short period of time, because overall, your university is not that old. It's a younger institution. And I really admire a lot of things that you've done here. To have 30% diversity in your student body, that's really something to be both proud of and also to be commended, because that makes a difference with how we learn and how we learn together, and the differences in having perspectives where you can all work together, respect each other's differences, and celebrate each person's uniqueness. And then that helps an institution move forward and actualize what they really would like to do as their goals and their vision. I think another thing I'd like to point out, before I was an academic, I had a career in economic and community development. And I think that helps give me a perspective around a lot of things, like ideas of community building, creating a sense of place, connecting to the community to build resources and partnerships that can help students really thrive in their learning environment and their educational opportunities. And so again, that's another reason I'm interested. This is an institution that is poised within an urban, regional area of the state that's both dynamic, but has a lot of opportunities for both business development and things that are happening in the economy and social development in the region. And then you're also at the intersection between the natural environment, coastal area, with the built environment. And where those kind of interactions happen are usually a lot of changing, challenging issues, along with dynamic opportunities to push forward both academic mission, but helping address some of the challenges and issues that face a community and a region, especially given the environmental context that you're located in at the coastal area. I can give you a little bit about my background. I know that you probably have access to the materials, so that may or may not be so interesting, but I wanted to give you the context from more of sort of my philosophy on education, learning, and for students. I think as public institutions in particular, we have to be geared to helping our students be what some call life-ready, career-ready, and also work-ready. So we have to be able to see that we're giving you those kind of skills, those experiences that make a difference, so that when you're ready to leave the campus and leave the university and graduate and move on, that you're ready for that, whatever that may bring, whether you're pursuing other studies, or you're going straight into work, or if you're taking time to travel or see the world, or whatever you may be pursuing. We need to know that you're getting that ability to do that. From all the metrics I can see, from the data that's been shared with me, it seems like doing really well in placing graduates and having successful completion. And that, again, is another point of pride for all of you to think about and feel good about, that the institution is delivering well on that ability to get you ready for your career and your life. You know, other things that, I hope we'll have a chance to have some good conversations around ideas around what you perceive and what you see as both needs here at the university from your perspective as you transition and move into the next phase of leadership, but also what you value about this place. And it may be different from what others have told me. I'm meeting with staff, faculty, administrators, community partners, alums, many different stakeholder groups in the institution. And I'd really be curious to hear from your perspective as students, what is that you value about your experience here, but also anything you'd like to see that could be changed or improved, or things that you would like to see as you move forward into this next phase of development for the university. So I'm eager to hear, eager to start the conversation. That's sort of my introduction, so I'd love to get more in discussion, conversation at this point if we can. Thanks.
All right, so for those of you who are, it's soft again. So for those of you who are ready with questions, please come up to the microphone now and go ahead and introduce yourself to Dr. Phillips.
My name is Moshe, and I was wondering, what is your position about the role of college sports in academia?
Yeah, the role of sports?
Yeah, college sports.
Yes, yes, okay, absolutely, absolutely. You know, it's such an interesting thing, and every meeting I've been in since yesterday morning, the issue has come up. And so to me that implies or indicates that this is an issue that resonates deeply with your campus and with the members of the community, because otherwise it wouldn't be coming up in every meeting that I have. So, you know, my position is that athletics play a strong role in an institution such as a university for a multitude of reasons, not the least of which are to give students that opportunity to both participate as athletes, but also in intramural and in other sports activities. It's part of creating an environment that a university or college has to basically connect its students, its staff, and its faculty and community members around sort of a common idea of a team, building team spirit. And whether or not a student participates directly in it, it's good to have that venue for, like I said, a lot of reasons, not the least of which is building a sense of community and belonging. As I was walking around campus today, going to different buildings, I saw UNF T-shirts. I saw sort of that, the spirit of the university evident with students wearing, logoed T-shirts and various things like that. And it's a good thing in a lot of ways because it does help students feel connected, whether or not, again, you're actively participating in athletic events, or if you're an observer, or if you're simply providing some team spirit to help build that connection. So there's always a balance between the academic needs and athletic needs and other needs of a university. And I think it's important to of course, always preserve the quality of the academy. That's why we're in business. That's what we do, is the business of education. At the same time, having athletics on a campus can be very rewarding for the institution, for its stakeholders, for its students and community members. And I think there's always a balance to be achieved. But from what I've heard here, there are about 280 student athletes. They have very high grade point averages, and they perform very high in academic standards and evaluations. And that's again to be commended. That's something that indicates to me that this institution is committed to academic excellence, and that's impressive. I also heard that there are a lot of intramural sports here. So again, that's another way for people to connect, to get to know each other. And that is important too, particularly for our students who may live off campus, to be able to have opportunities to get to know other students beyond the classroom. So for a lot of reasons, it can provide those venues for connections. Thank you.
Hello,
Hi.
my name is Colin. I was wondering, why did you choose UNF?
Yeah, that's a good question. And, for a long time, this region has held a lot of appeal for both me and my family. We've lived in Florida in the past. We have a home in the region nearby, and so as our family has our kids have grown up, they're adult children. We reconvene, here in this area. So for holidays, vacations, our children are all over the place, including other countries, and so when we come back, we like to think of this as sort of our home region, our home area, even though we've lived and moved, to different parts of the U.S., out in the Southwest and Midwest. This has always held a special place for us and for my family, and so this is an opportunity, of a really up-and-coming institution that has made a lot of strides in a hurry as a young institution, and an opportunity to work in an area that I feel strongly about, feel really good about where this is in relation to other opportunities. And it just seems like the time is right, both in my career, but also personally, that this is a place that we would like to be, my family and I, but also it's the type of place I'd like to be, which is, it's on the scale where you can really get to know others, get to know your students, administrators, and others across campus. It's very similar in size, and a lot of things are very much like where I went to school as an undergraduate at a regional school, University of Southern Mississippi. It's very similar to this institution. And it was a place where you got to know a lot of people, and I liked that feeling, I liked that environment. I went back for 3 years as a faculty member later in my career, and it was a really rewarding experience to see how they've grown and developed. And it seems like there's a lot of opportunity here. I mean, I think you've, like I say, this institution has accomplished a lot already. There's a strong foundation to build on, that even more could be accomplished with opportunities to move forward, to really see what the impact could be, both on our student population, but also the community at large, helping play that role that, you can be a catalyst as a research, not a higher education institution in your regional community for both, education, but also applied research and other kinds of research with service and engagement. And like I said, your institution is already 10 steps ahead of some other peers about engagement. You have quite a few initiatives that you're doing as an institution around community engagement and community-based learning. That's impressive. So I would be honored to be here and be part of that.
Thank you. And what do you think are the 2 top priorities that UNF needs to tackle?
Well, I'm the outside looking in, but the information I've seen and gleaned and the questions I've asked and questions have been asking me, it seems pretty apparent that looking forward to how the performance budget system in the state system of Florida is addressed and how those resource dollars are gained for the institution. And the reason I say that is additional funding and support is always welcome on a campus, but it does more than that. It also helps move forward the institution and support the academic mission. So I think that's probably the number one thing that needs to be tackled if I were to get this job. The second thing, and concurrently almost in conjunction with tackling that issue of the performance metrics, would be to really think about the vision and the next steps and to see how that could be actualized and what would those goals be, and as a community, what would that look like, and what would those next steps, how much to grow, what areas to grow, what dimensions of this university would need more attention to help support that mission and those goals that would be outlined.
Okay. And how would you improve revenue here at UNF?
I'm sorry,
how would you improve revenue?
Oh, improve revenue.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, there's, within any given institute of higher education, there's certain sources of revenue, certain ways you can look at things. Of course, we have our budget. We have the part that comes from the state, the part that comes from tuition revenue, and there's certain ways to move that. You can increase enrollment. You do get more tuition revenue, but there are also costs associated with that, and that you have to provide the support and infrastructure to do that. There's also opportunities. I also see around scholarship development with bringing in external funds to help with both applied research. Other kinds of research, scholarship development is what I like to term that. And it can be, the competitive kinds of grants that we all go after as institutes of higher education. It can also be working with community partners and nonprofit sectors such as foundation partners to find ways to support our academic mission, but also have funding sources to do some program development, to do student, staff, faculty support. But there are ways to, instead of always trying to take the pie of the revenue and divide it into ever thinner slices, what about trying to make the pie bigger so that you have additional resources and support? So I think a combination of ways, perhaps increasing enrollment, somewhat making sure that addressing issues of access for the region students, but also looking carefully at how external funds could be coming into the university to help support academic mission. And of course, there's a third thing, which is always looking for efficiencies in the current system.
Thank you.
Sure.
How would you work locally to recruit students in our own community?
Sure. Well, I'd like to really understand what you're currently doing. My guess is that you're currently connecting with high school counselors, with events, yield events at your local high schools. It would be my guess. But there's also a population of adult learners here on campus as well. So my guess is they're working with some of the career centers, perhaps some of the major employers in the region to see how they can serve the adult learner as well as the first time in college student learner. And so I think part of that is really understanding too the demographics of your region and area. I mean, how many students will you have over the next 5-10 years or so coming through graduation in the area high schools? What does their profile look like? And then trying to work with that with the counselors and with the recruiters to make sure you're targeting the enrollment where it needs to be. And again, I don't have full information or access to those data right now, but my guess is, you know, they would know what that profile looks like and how that can be, you know, students can be targeted, so the message of why come to UNF would be clear in their minds and as a viable option for college.
Okay.
So.
Last semester, there was an issue with a former KKK member on campus, and it brought up topics about white supremacy. What would you do to prevent this from happening or deal with this situation if it did happen?
Sure. Well, I mean, as you know, public institutions and particularly higher ed is sort of the real point of focus now in the country for having freedom of expression, freedom of thought expressed. And as higher institutions, higher education institutions, we have to realize and know that we have to uphold the legalities of free speech, that we have to hopefully be places where ideas and perspectives can be shared across much diversity. All that having been said, we also have, I believe, and many others believe, that we cannot have situations that escalate or become threatening or actually result in harm to the stakeholders of our institution, which are students, our staff, our faculty, our alums, and others, who are either threatened or directly harmed by any action that would create that. So there is a balance there of being sure that we're upholding, you know, the value of free speech. I mean, that's what's made our country very strong. It's what we were founded on. So we have to do that, and we also have to balance that with the need to not have our stakeholders threatened or harmed in any way. So it's a balancing act. It really is, and it's an issue that's across the nation. Administrators in higher ed and stakeholders in higher ed are really trying to look through and see what happens in these cases. So yes, it's an area that's emerging on a daily basis across the nation.
All right, thank you. This is my last question. How would you promote diversity and inclusion?
Well, I want to say, first of all, I think I already mentioned this, but you're at about 30% underrepresented or diverse student population in your student population. That's to be commended. That's pretty high. It's higher than many others that you may look at in peers. And so that indicates to me that this institution has given attention to and explicit action for making sure that diverse populations are included and have access to higher ed. That's an important thing. I'd like to try to continue that, expand that, ensure that those processes are in place to continue that, because it's not something that we can hope happens. It has to be explicit, and it has to be direct efforts to ensure it happens, and that having a campus where all feel welcome is to be treasured, because you know, it's not always that way and across the U.S. when you look at the landscape of higher ed. And also the ability of having accessibility for those students. I mean, the Florida system is pretty affordable, particularly in comparison to peers around the nation. And that's something to really stand up and fight for, to make sure we have both the access and affordability, and that it's an open, inclusive environment. So I admire that. So I'd want to make sure that continues, and that is not in any way you know, diluted, because it's important. And I'd like to see, you know, even more diversity.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I was wondering, how visible are you planning to be in the university? For example, are you planning to go to basketball games, appear in moving day, student orientation?
Yeah.
What do you think your level of visibility would be?
Sure. Well, I would like to think that I would have many opportunities to do that and engage with our students. And, you know, that's something that I relish. When we built our new college at Purdue, it's one of the few that's what we call sort of that integrated living learning environment. So our offices classrooms, convening spaces, makerspace, and all those are there, right there where the students live above us on the floors above. So we engage and interact, on a daily basis, and that's what I relish about it. I really enjoy that environment and really like the engagement with students because, students are the lifeblood of an institution. And, everyone who has a part in that needs to sort of understand what that culture is and what the students are thinking and what they're experiencing, because that's what we do as institutes of higher ed. And so, I would hope I would have many opportunities to be both visible, but more than be visible, I'd like to really understand and engage and interact with students at a meaningful level so that I know what the pulse of the campus is and what students are thinking, what they're really, what they treasure and value and what they need to be the most successful they possibly can be. So I would say I'm highly engaged that way and relish those opportunities.
And, one more question.
Sure.
So when you're going to lead UNF, are you going to look in the context of FSU, UF, UCF, and USF? Are you going to think about those institutions and the role of UNF when you take those institutions, the other state institutions under consideration, or you're going to create your own pathway?
Well, I think it's important in any state system to understand your peers. And Florida has a strong system with many, there are 12 institutions in the system. I think it would be important to understand where UNF stands in relation to the peers, the other 11 peers, but also, looking at how they perform in relation to those peers and learn from each other, see if there's collaborative opportunities, for example, to, maybe take advantage of some efficiencies of scale around technologies, for example. I would like to be sure that we have that opportunity to do so and to position UNF to be a strong peer in the system and make sure that our students are getting the best education possible. And I think that's an appealing thing actually, to have your peers in a system such as that we find in Florida. I don't think that it's necessarily. We may, of course, compete for some of the same students, but not entirely, because the regional institutions tend to pull heavily from their regions. There may be others that we're competing for, but Florida is a big state, and it's got a strong demographic for students coming through the pipeline to be, seeking college education. So I think we're a big enough state that we can do things in hopefully a much more collaborative manner rather than just outright competition per se, but to get some efficiencies of scale and do some collaboration across the units and institutions.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so are there any further questions from the audience? All right, seeing none, I'm going to ask a few questions myself.
Sure.
So one thing that I think is very important, not just to our students, but also the parents and the faculty, are the postgraduate opportunities and the postgraduate success of our student body. Could you tell us a little bit about your experience developing and expanding programs that drive student success?
Sure, absolutely. Well, student success, if it isn't already, it should be a priority at any institution of higher education, because we, as institutions, that's how we can measure our success, but it's also, it's definitely should be a priority of what we do as institutions to ensure that. So I've worked closely with our areas of student affairs and student success and the institutions I've been at, to make sure that our programs, that are the way we deliver curriculum and course and learning opportunities is working and working well. I've also worked quite a bit with other dimensions beyond the classroom of helping push forward student success, looking at what those other opportunities are, whether that may be internships, cooperative opportunities to work, but also connecting them to community members, community organizations, helping push forward community engagement, global opportunities, whether that be study abroad or internship, research internships abroad, bringing faculty and staff from other institutions to engage and share with the students at the home institution. So, it's part and parcel of making sure that an institute is working well and being effective in what we're charged to do, is to help educate students. And so, I tend not to separate it too widely because I see it as part of the whole, and have had the privilege of working with excellent colleagues in those units of student success and student affairs and beyond to make sure that we're designing programs appropriately and for what our students need. I think you also mentioned something about graduate opportunities, and so throughout my career I've had the privilege of working with others to both develop new programs, whether that's master's level and even doctoral level programs, and also certificates and various learning opportunities for students. And sometimes it's put together, or either existing curriculum or changed and enhanced to attract the students who are already at that institution to stay and take advantage of that graduate opportunity. I would think there are more opportunities for that right here at UNF as well. You have several master's programs and a doctoral program, and it would be, I think, an opportunity to see what could be developed to help the student body have those opportunities right here if they so choose, and also attract others from the community and beyond to come in and take advantage of that graduate education opportunity. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Another question I have, something that you might already be aware of. I know the students are certainly aware of it, how collaborative the university has been with the outside community, with Jacksonville. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience in prior institutions or your current institution where you've worked with community leaders, external stakeholders, and those types of constituencies to build a better institution?
Absolutely. And as I mentioned before, I had a career prior to being an academic, and that was in economic and community development. So this is a really strong point of passion and interest for me, because I know the benefits that can be accrued and achieved by working closely with stakeholders and partners both within the institution and external to the institution. And so I'm a big believer in trying to develop those beneficial partnerships on behalf of the academic institution. It helps support achieving academic mission. It helps provide opportunities for our students, our staff and faculty and alums to engage. And it also helps fulfill what I believe strongly is a mission of our public institutions of higher education, which is we should serve our host regions in every way we can to help further the economic, social progress of our host regions, so that by helping educate the populace of that region, but also connecting with industry and with public sector and nonprofit partners, we can actually push forward the mission of the university at the same time that we're creating benefits for our host regions. So I've worked in a variety of contexts, both with industry, with setting up various programs, with also identifying opportunities for internships, for exchange with faculty, staff, and with members of those businesses. At the same time, also public sector, with local government, with regional government, as well as state, and even have worked in the past at a past institution where I was like the faculty liaison with a NASA center. So I was able to help connect around tech transfer technology to businesses, existing businesses, as well as proposed new businesses, and the faculty and staff. And so there's a lot of examples of that. I'm really committed to that dimension of the work I do, both in my scholarship, but also what I like to think of as applied engagement and applied practice within community economic development. It's pretty critical. I mean, it's one of the reasons I'm interested in being here at UNF is the strong foundation that's already been built, but also the many opportunities that exist in the Jacksonville region to further those partnerships and to really help support the university in its academic mission, at the same time benefiting our region. Thanks.
Thank you. I'll ask one more question. Assuming that you were to become our next university president, what is the one thing that you want by the end of your tenure our graduates and our university to be known for?
That's a great question. You know, I think having the ability to look back over that time spent helping lead and move forward an institution, I'd like to think that students who have come through the university and completed their degrees, education experiences, would say that it's been something that's enhanced their life and their learning ability and has made the difference in their lives going forward. So it's almost like you would need to ask them after they've been out, and so they can reflect on that experience. So maybe it's a survey of alums a few years out or something. But I'd like to know that it made a positive impact and a difference in their lives, in their path, in their career. And that would be a really good sense of satisfaction if we could see that we had that kind of positive impact at that level, where it was life-changing for the better.
All right, thank you. Now I'll ask one more time, any more questions the students in the audience would like to ask? Dr. Phillips? All right, seeing none, those are all the questions that I had. I think the students definitely got a lot. I'd like to give Dr. Phillips a round of applause.
Thank you. Thanks.
So with that, it's 5 o'clock now, so you're a little ahead of schedule now, so you get some time, whatever time you need. Thank you all for joining us. Again, those of you in the audience and those who are watching us through the live stream from Spinnaker Media, again, thank you for being involved in the search. We will have another session start at 5:30. It is upstairs in ballrooms C and D, I believe. So definitely, if you have any new questions that come up, please come out. And that, to those of you who are watching, if you'd like to attend in person and meet Dr. Phillips, please come out. So again, thank you, everyone.
Thank you all.